You already know this. A conversation is going fine, then someone stops talking, and nobody fills the gap. 4 seconds pass, just 4, and something in your chest tightens like you just got caught doing something wrong. You didn't do anything. Nobody did. Silence just happened, and your brain reacted like you were under attack, which is insane if you actually think about it. You can sit alone for 3 hours, headphones off, doing absolutely nothing, and feel completely fine. But the second that same silence shows up mid-conversation with another human being 3 feet away, your nervous system treats it like an emergency. Same silence, same amount of sound, zero danger in either version. So why does one kind of quiet feel like a walk in the park, and the other kind feel like standing on a stage after forgetting your lines? In 2011, psychologist Namke Kodenberg and her team at the University of Groningen decided to actually test this instead of just complaining about awkward pauses like the rest of us. They had participants imagine themselves inside a conversation that gets interrupted by a single silence, 4 seconds long. That's it. 4 seconds. No insult, no argument, nothing said. And people who imagined that pause reported feeling more rejected, more anxious, and less like they belonged to the group, compared to people who imagined a conversation that never stopped. 4 seconds. That's shorter than it took you to read this sentence. Here's the part that should actually bother you. Your brain doesn't process social rejection as a metaphor. Research using brain scans has shown that being excluded activates some of the same regions involved in processing physical pain. Not similar to pain in some poetic sense, overlapping circuitry, which means that awkward 4-second gap on a call isn't just uncomfortable. As far as your nervous system is concerned, it is mildly injuring you. And this isn't a modern glitch. Rewind about 100,000 years, and being cut off from your group wasn't an inconvenience, it was closer to a death sentence. No group meant no protection, no shared food, no one to notice if you didn't come back. So evolution built you a smoke detector for exclusion, and it's wired to go off fast, cheap, and loud long before you have any actual evidence you're being rejected. A silence is ambiguous. Nobody said we don't want you here. But ambiguous is exactly what a fast, cheap alarm system is built to punish. It doesn't wait for proof. It reacts first and lets you sort out the details later, sweating. Think about how strange that is for a second. The alarm doesn't need a threat. It just needs the absence of reassurance. That's a remarkably low bar. And your brain sets it that low on purpose because in an ancestral group, waiting for solid proof of rejection before reacting was a great way to end up abandoned before you noticed anything was wrong. Better to overreact to a false alarm 1,000 times than to miss the one silence that actually meant something. And the setup Kaudenberg used to prove this wasn't some abstract survey. She had people watch a short video of 3 students talking about relationships, and 4 minutes in, one of them drops a mildly controversial opinion out loud. In one version, the group smoothly changed the subject without a beat lost. In the other, there's a single 4-second gap first. That's the entire manipulation. One pause, 4 seconds. And it was enough to measurably drop how much the viewers felt liked, accepted, and validated by a group they weren't even really part of, watching from behind a screen. If a silence in a video you're not even in can do that to you, imagine what it's doing when the silence is yours, in a room, in real time, with your actual reputation on the line. That's also why the alarm doesn't care whether the silence is your fault. It fires the same way whether you said something wrong, or the other person just got distracted by a thought, or the Wi-Fi genuinely dropped for a second. Blame isn't part of the calculation. Your body doesn't wait to find out who caused the gap before deciding to panic about it. So look at what you actually do with this now. You're on a video call, and the second the audio drops, or someone's screen freezes, you say, "Oh, can you hear me?" 3 times. Not because you need to know, but because you cannot tolerate 1 dead second of silence. You text someone, you see the 3 dots appear, then disappear, then nothing, and you invent an entire emotional narrative in the space of that silence, usually one where you did something wrong, Honestly, this obsession with never letting a gap sit is a little embarrassing once you name it out loud. We built an entire culture around murdering silence, podcasts playing while you cook, notifications filling every idle second, music in elevators that nobody asked for. Not because we love sound, but because we're terrified of what a few unfilled seconds might make us feel. That's not preference. That's avoidance dressed up as personality. And you do it in person too. Someone pauses mid-sentence, and before they even finish the thought, you're already jumping in with a joke, or an anyway, or an apology for a silence you didn't even cause. Ask yourself honestly, is that you being a good conversationalist, or is that your amygdala doing crisis management on your behalf without asking your permission first? Even the way people describe silence gives it away. Nobody says a conversation went quiet. They say it got awkward, like silence itself did something wrong, like it's a guilty party instead of just an absence. You've assigned blame to the sound of nothing, which is a genuinely strange thing for a species to do, and yet you do it multiple times a day without noticing. Notice it on a first date too. You ask a question, they pause to actually think before answering, and instead of letting them think, you panic and start talking over your own question, softening it, adding an out, basically apologizing for having asked in the first place. You didn't do anything wrong. They were just thinking. But your alarm doesn't know the difference between someone thinking and someone deciding they don't like you, so it treats both the exact same way. And you end up negotiating against yourself in real time. Job interviews are the worst version of this. The interviewer writes something down, and for 3 or 4 seconds, nobody says anything, and you feel this overwhelming urge to add something, to fill the space, to prove you're still worth the room. Most of the time, that unprompted addition is worse than whatever silence it was covering for. The silence wasn't judging you. Your nervous system just couldn't stand not knowing that in real time. Here's where it gets messier, though, because this isn't some universal law carved into human biology. Research comparing conversational habits across cultures found that Japanese speakers tolerated silences roughly twice as long as that 4-second threshold, somewhere around 8 seconds, before it registered as awkward. Same species, same nervous system, wildly different tolerance, which tells you something uncomfortable. This isn't purely instinct. Some of it is learned. Some cultures train people to read silence as respect, or thought, or patience, not rejection. And even within one culture, the effect isn't fixed. Sit with someone you've known for 20 years, someone you trust completely, and a silence can stretch for a full minute without either of you feeling a single flicker of that 4-second panic. So the timer isn't really measuring the silence at all. It's measuring how safe you feel with the person sitting across from it. A stranger's silence and an old friend's silence contain the exact same number of missing words, and somehow one destroys you, and the other feels like rest. Which means every time a silence makes you panic, you're not actually learning anything about the conversation. You're getting a real-time readout of how insecure you feel in that specific relationship. And most people would rather fill the gap with noise than sit still long enough to read it. That's the part worth sitting with. The 4 seconds were never the problem. The 4 seconds are just a measuring stick, and what they're measuring is trust, not sound. A silence with a stranger and a silence with someone who loves you weigh the same on a stopwatch, and nothing alike anywhere else. So next time a conversation goes quiet and your chest starts doing that thing, don't rush to fill it. Don't perform a joke you don't mean. Don't apologize for a silence that was never yours to own. Just notice what your body is telling you. And ask yourself the only question that actually matters here. Are you afraid of the silence? Or are you afraid of what it might be telling you about the person sitting inside it with you?